Hey guys, Useless here, and today we are going to be talking about Marvel completely falling apart. So just to be clear, I do not have a lot of time to just make a properly edited video. So this massive story broke in Variety, I want to cover it quickly. We're just going to read the article. I talk about it as we go. I haven't even read it yet. This is a reaction video of sorts. So we're going to go through, and we're just going to talk about stuff as they come. I am sorry. I'm a bad YouTuber, but I also do other things in my life because this isn't my full-time job yet. If you want it to be my full-time job, hey, like the video, show some support, do the things that YouTubers tell you to do. Okay, let's get oh god, I'm dying. Let's get going. Crisis at Marvel, Jonathan Majors' backup plans, the Marvels reshoots, reviving original Avengers, and more issues revealed. This past September, a group of Marvel creatives, including studio chef Kevin Feige, assembled in Palm Springs for the studio's annual retreat. Most years, the vibe would have been confident, even cocky, given how the Premiere, superhero brand owned by Disney since 2009, has remade the entertainment business in its image. But this occasion was angst-ridden. Everyone at Marvel was reeling from a series of disappointments on screen. A legal scandal involving one of its biggest stars and questions about the viability of the studio's ambitious strategy to extend the brand beyond movies into streaming. The most pressing issue to be discussed at the retreat was what to do about Jonathan Majors, the actor who had been poised to carry the next phase of Marvel Cinematic Universe, but instead is headed to a high-profile trial in New York later this month on domestic violence charges. The actor insists he is the victim, but the damage to his reputation and the chance he could lose the case has forced Marvel to reconsider its plans to center the next phase of its interlocking slate of sequels, spin-offs, and series around Majors' villainous character, King the Conqueror. So yeah, that's the thing about Jonathan Majors. It kind of maybe looked like he was gonna the case was gonna be dismissed, but that didn't happen. We are, in fact, I believe sometime in November, we are going to go through a Jonathan Majors trial. And yeah, trials take a long time to go through, and Marvel is absolutely having to seriously consider if they want Jonathan Majors around. Now, I will say, I think the obvious answer here is, hey, recast the character. Like, you can do that. You can recast. You don't just have to get rid of characters when actors die or they, get in scandals. You can just recast. But I think this article is also going to get into why maybe they don't want to do that. So let's keep reading. At the gathering in Palm Springs, executives discussed backup plans, including pivoting to another comic book adversary like Doctor Doom. But making any shift would carry its own headaches. Majors was already a big presence in the MCU, including as the scene-stealing antagonist in February's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and he has been positioned as the franchise's next big thing in this season of Loki, particularly in the finale, which airs on November 9th and sets up Kang as the titular star of a fifth Avengers film in 2026. So yeah, I actually haven't been watching Loki. I am so behind on both Gen V and Loki. So I haven't started watching it, but yeah, I guess spoiler alert, maybe Variety is saying that the season finale of Loki is going to set him up as the titular star of a fifth Avengers film. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I wonder if... Yeah, I'm not even sure what to say about that, but going back a bit, they're saying that Marvel is considering pivoting over to Doctor Doom. Now, I will say this. I don't think that the plan necessarily, or like what stories you're telling, is entirely the problem. Like, would I like to see them move away from multiverse stuff? Yeah. I'm kind of sick of it. I don't... it oftentimes leads to, like, I don't know, lazy storytelling and literal just fan service for the sake of fan service without, any regard for the story that you're telling. But at the end of the day, multiverse itself isn't the problem. Kang himself isn't the problem. It's just the quality of the stories. Like, they just have to get better. So I don't know that switching to Doctor Doom is going to magically fix things. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the project that Kang is in. They have to be good. You know, Ant-Man and the Quantumania should have been a fantastic movie that made people love Kang as a villain. It didn't do that. So that's ultimately the problem. So it's like, cool, yeah, Doctor Doom is a fun villain, and maybe at this point Kang has just been tarnished, and you should switch over to Doctor Doom. But don't forget about the most important part about all this. So we'll continue reading. Marvel is truly fucked with the whole Kang angle, says one top dealmaker who has seen the final Loki episode. And they haven't had an opportunity to rewrite until very recently because of the WGA strike. Oh, that's interesting. But I don't see a path to how they can move forward with him. Beyond the bad press for majors. Oh, that's interesting. So he says they haven't had a chance to rewrite until very recently because of the WGA strike. What projects would Kang be in that would need to be rewritten? Obviously the Kang Dynasty, but like, have they already begun writing that movie? I'm not entirely sure. So, like, could we see Kang show up in like the Marvels or in I don't know, probably not Echo, probably not Daredevil. I'm trying to think what. I'm not sure. I think that's interesting that maybe Kang is in a bunch of projects that we don't know about. But either way. Beyond the bad press for majors, the brain trust at Marvel is also grappling with the November release of The Marvels, a sequel to 2019's blockbuster Captain Marvel that has been plagued with lengthy reshoots and now appears to likely underwhelm at the box office. This is all an unprecedented turn of fortune for a company that has enjoyed a nearly uninterrupted string of hits ever since it started independently producing its movies with 2008's Iron Man. That wildly profitable run culminated in the $2.8 billion success of Avengers Endgame, a high watermark for the studio that has only earned nearly $30 billion over 32 films. That is crazy insane. That is actually crazy. The success of Marvel. It's wild. Replicating that kind of phenomenon is never easy. However, the source of Marvel's current troubles can be traced back to 2020. That's when the COVID pandemic ushered in a mandate to help boost Disney's stock price with an endless torrent of interconnected Marvel content for the studio's fledgling streaming platform, Disney+. According to the plan, there would never be a lapse in superhero fare, with either a film in theaters or a new television series streaming at any given moment. And this ultimately is, I think, the root of the issue. I just think they were doing too much. And I've talked about this before, but doing too much affects everything. It affects the amount of, just the sheer amount of product that audiences are getting. So when you have like a new movie in theaters and a new streaming show like at all times, it just doesn't allow people to get hyped for the next Marvel project. Like, I distinctly remember this really first affecting me when I was in the middle of watching Miss Marvel, and there was an episode of Miss Marvel that dropped on the same day that Thor: Love and Thunder came out, and I was just like, I can't be excited about Thor: Love and Thunder. It's like, I'm already watching a Marvel thing. I'm good on Marvel. I watched Thor: Love and Thunder. I watched it, obviously, and whatever. I actually like that movie more than most people, but I wasn't excited about it. I'm not excited for the Marvels. I wasn't excited for Loki. I'm not excited for Echo. I'm not even excited for like the new Avengers movies. I can't say that I'm excited about Deadpool 3 because I just feel like I'm always watching something that has to do with Marvel. And so that's one problem. I think when you're doing too much content, I think it just leads to the creatives being stretched too thin, right? Kevin Feige, he used to be heavily involved in every Marvel project, and he used to shepherd that stuff. He can't do that anymore. And whenever Marvel would hire people like the Russo brothers, right, who were mostly known for like Arrested Development, I think, or no, what was the show that they made? They were part of some show, right? They'd never done a blockbuster. And then Kevin Feige sees something in them, and he puts them on Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And I think one of the reasons why the Russo brothers got as good with Marvel as they did is because Kevin Feige was there in the Winter Soldier, help shepherding them. Now, when we get to Phase 4, Kevin Feige continues hiring, these not so great talents, maybe. Maybe they have potential. Maybe under the tutelage of Kevin Feige, they could have grown into a great director. But Kevin Feige can't be there for all of these projects. So doing too much leads to a lower quality of product at the end of the day. And I think that's just tends to be the thinking with streaming in general. And I mean, I'll also say this: the fact that Marvel, the MCU, is on streaming, it lessens the impact of the MCU overall. It's kind of a shitty thing to say, but it just kind of is what it is. When MCU shows are now on Disney Plus, they don't feel even the movies don't feel as special anymore. When you look at the Marvels and you see Kamala Khan, as much as I'm not saying I feel this way, but as much as I love Iman Vellani in the role, her being in a Disney Plus show, the Photon lady, Monica Rambeau, her being in a Disney Plus show, feeling like you have to watch Disney Plus shows in order to watch the Marvels makes that movie feel less cinematic. I think that is a factor. And I'm not saying that I feel that way. I think that's how general audiences feel. So I think that overall, just their plan for streaming and during COVID, like Variety's pointing out, and I've said all this before, I think it absolutely has led to where we're at now. Anyways, continuing. But ensuing the tsunami of spandex proved to be too much of a good thing, and the demands of churning out so much programming taxed the Marvel apparatus. Moreover, the need to tease out an interwoven storyline over so many disparate shows, movies, and platforms created a muddled narrative that baffled viewers. The Marvel machine was pumping out a lot of content. Did it get to the point where there was just too much and they were burning people out on superheroes? It's possible, says Wall Street analyst Eric Handler, who covers Disney. The more you do, the tougher it is to maintain quality. I swear I haven't pre-read this. He's actually copying me. They tried experimenting with breaking in some new characters like Shang-Chi and Eternals with mixed results. With budgets as big as these, you need home runs. And that's the other thing, right? Oh, I'll wait until I get into this with the next paragraph. The Marvels, which opens in theaters on November 10th, will struggle to get the ball past the infield, at least by Marvel's outsized standards. The movie, which cost $250 million and sees Brie Larson reprising her role as Captain Marvel, is tracking to open to $75 million to $80 million, far below the $185 million Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness took in domestically in its debut weekend last year. Why does that movie cost $250 million? And if you are going to cost $250 million, why does it look as bad as it does, visually speaking? Where does that money go? Well, okay, to be fair, I also understand that you can't just throw money at something and expect it to be good. This is also another problem with Marvel. There's so much just this attitude of we'll fix it in post, 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 that your movies just aren't going to come out looking good. Because what really convinced me of that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That movie looks incredible. I think that movie was also cost $250 million, and you know what? It looks like it. I think another problem is that James Gunn, I think, is so experienced now, and he was given autonomy. He probably went in with a plan. He knew what he wanted to do, and he was able to communicate with his VFX artists. When we've heard all these horror stories of Marvel just going back to their VFX artists and being like, actually, we want to go be on a different planet for this scene. Actually, Thor's going to be fighting this giant monster now, and the shots were not shot to look like what you want now, and that's how we get these terrible looking movies. And so now you're getting a $250 million movie that doesn't look like $250 million, and you're expecting people to think this is Avatar. And you're expecting $250 million worth of people to be excited for your movie, to be hyped for your movie, to show up for your movie. It's like, no, you do that enough, people are going to get bored. People are going to be like, I'm not that into Marvel anymore. So I'm kind of rambling, but I think you get what I mean when it comes to these absurd budgets and what audiences are getting on the screen. Directed by Nia DaCosta, The Marvels unites Larson's heroine with two superpowered allies. Teyonah Parris. By the way, I should mention, I'm also talking about how I think a lot of audiences feel. Me personally, I actually think The Marvels looks like fun. I mean, I stand by the fact that it looks bad, like visually speaking. A lot of the CGI looks terrible, at least from what I've seen in the trailers. But I actually think it looks like fun. Anyways, The Marvels unites Larson's heroine with two superpowered allies. Teyonah Parris is Monica Rambeau and Iman Vellani's Kamala Khan. But instead of seamlessly building on the success of Captain Marvel, this move resulted in 4 weeks of reshoots to bring coherence to a tangled storyline. Okay, what is this? Then eyebrows were raised again when DaCosta began working on another film while The Marvels was still in post-production. The filmmaker moved to London earlier this year to begin prepping for her Tessa Thompson drama, Hida. If you're directing a $250 million movie, it's kind of weird for the director to leave with a few months to go, says a source familiar with the production. What am I reading? So basically, I guess when they wrote the script for the Marvels and they initially shot it, did they not know what happened in WandaVision or in Miss Marvel? Like, did those shows come out and then they realized, like, I guess was the Marvels shot before those shows came out? Surely not before WandaVision. What does that mean that they had to do reshoots in order to bring coherence to the interconnectedness of it all? And again, this is also probably something that they've had to grapple with. The fact that there's so many projects happening, the fact that there's so many moving parts, it becomes hard to interconnect everything and make it all make sense and make it all satisfying for the viewer. And the fact that Nia DaCosta has left while the movie is still in post-production? What? Is this even her movie? Like, and by the way, leaving in post-production is a big deal. When one of the sayings in Hollywood is that your movie is made in the editing bay. That is when your movie is made. The fact that she left in post-production is wild to me. We're going to keep on reading. The Marvels has seen its release date moved back twice. Once to swap places with Quantumania, which was deemed further along, and again when its debut shifted from July to November to give the filmmakers more time to tinker. But that extra time didn't necessarily help. In June, Marvel, which traditionally only solicits feedback from Disney employees and their friends and families, took the uncharacteristic deep dive of holding a public test screening in Texas. The audience gave the film middling reviews. But Marvel has never been in the business of being average. Kevin's real superpower, his genius, has always been in post-production and getting his hands on movies and making sure that they finish strongly. The source adds, okay, this is interesting. These days, he's spread thin. Feige declined to comment for the story. Okay, so that's interesting. So I mean, this is interesting to hear. So, I guess Feige often gets the movie in post, and then is sort of him doing stuff in post is the secret sauce. All right, well, that's just an interesting thing to note. And it's saying that, again, like as I've said, he's spread thin. Feige isn't the only person showing signs of strain. Marvel's entire VFX battalion, including staffers and vendors, is struggling to keep pace with a never-ending stream of productions. This past February, when the credits rolled at the world premiere of Quantumania, shock rippled through the Regency Village Theater in Westwood over some shoddy CGI. There were at least 10 scenes where the visual effects had been added at the last minute and were out of focus, says one veteran power broker who was there. It was insane. I've never seen something like that in my entire career. Everyone was talking about it. Even the kids of executives were talking about it. So that's interesting. I guess, is that saying that during the premiere of Quantumania, they were just like unfinished VFX shots that were maybe added, that were maybe like finalized before the actual release of the movie. That is wackadoodle. The schedule swap with the Marvels had left the Ant-Man sequel in a squeeze, pushing up its post-production schedule by 4.5 months. Marvel films are known for coming down to the wire, given Feige's ability to foam the runway and land a plane that way, says one executive familiar with how the company operates. But this level of unfinished was unprecedented and would be noted in scathing reviews when the tentpole with the $200 million budget opened 11 days after the premiere. Critics weren't the only ones dismayed. Fed up with 14-hour days and no overtime, Marvel VFX workers voted unanimously to unionize in September, sparking an industry-wide trend. The year 2023 was the straw that broke the camel's back, says former Marvel Studios VFX assistant coordinator Anna George, who appeared before the Congressional Labor Caucus on October 19th to testify about the studio's untenable deadlines and working conditions. The pay and long hours at Marvel were the reason we had to start our unionization process there. The conditions were completely unsustainable. We've talked a lot about the VFX workers and the fact that they're having to crunch on all of these projects. And when you see how the sausage is made, it definitely seems untenable, right? This amount of projects this quickly. Disney's top brass, including newly returned CEO Bob Iger, was said to be apoplectic about Marvel's VFX troubles. What does that even mean? I don't know what that word means. We're gonna learn new words together. Apoplectic definition. Overcome with anger. Okay, interesting. Bob Iger was said to be overcome with anger about Marvel's VFX troubles. 1 month after the Quantumania premiere debacle, the guillotine fell on Victoria Alonso, who oversaw the studio's physical production, post-production, VFX, and animation. While the reason cited for her abrupt firing was her unauthorized role as an executive producer on the Oscar-nominated film Argentina 1985, I remember the story, insiders say Disney was incensed that quality control on its Marvel productions was plummeting, particularly on the ever-expanding TV front. The VFX logjam had been evident for some time, with some final effects for such Disney Plus series as WandaVision and She-Hulk Attorney at Law inserted after their streaming debuts, that Alonso, we're at the point where the streaming shows are getting patched, that Alonso was busy promoting her art house project, while Rome Burned certainly didn't sit well with Disney's leadership. Alonso's attorney says her client is unable to comment. Honestly, I don't even know that you could really blame Victoria Alonso. The amount of projects that they're making and the amount of time at the scale that they're making them, with the amount of time that they're given, with the amount of post-production notes that these VFX workers are given, the fact that Victoria Alonso gets these projects out at least, honestly, thinking back on that story, I don't even know if it's her fault. She probably did the best that she could, realistically. But I don't know. But let me drink water, actually. Guys, remember, important to stay hydrated. But some internal sources suggest Alonso was a scapegoat and point to the She-Hulk VFX issue as a symptom of a deep... I swear I didn't pre-read this article. Namely, a lack of oversight on script development. In the original arc of She-Hulk, a flashback of star Tatiana Maslany's transformation into her Hulk character didn't take place until episode 8, the penultimate episode. But after Marvel's Brain Trust watched the footage, it realized the scene needed to happen in the pilot episode so that audiences could see more of the character's backstory early. That meant that the VFX team was tasked with fixing the mess in post-production. That really is a lot of the root issue here as well, is that it's just you have to come in with a solidified plan, right? You have to be shooting these scenes knowing what the visual effects are going to be. This whole fix it in post mentality is just not tenable. The so-called bad VFX we see was because of half-baked scripts, says one person involved with She-Hulk. That is not Victoria. That is Kevin. And even above Kevin, those issues should be addressed in pre-production. The timeline is not allowing the Marvel executives to sit with the material. Bro, I didn't pre-read this. I'm being for real. All the while, Marvel is bleeding money, with a single episode of She-Hulk costing some $25 million, dwarfing the budget of a final season episode of HBO's Game of Thrones, but without a similar zeitgeist bang. The August 2022 series premiere of the El Capitan Theater foreshadowed what was to come 6 months later at the Quantumania Bow. The She-Hulk special effects were out of focus in multiple scenes. There are signs that the flood of product is leading people to tune out. I'm not prepared to call it a permanent fall, but based on the numbers that go with Marvel podcasts, Marvel-based articles, friends who do Marvel-based video coverage, all of these numbers are significantly down. I don't know that my channel is really a good metric to go by because my numbers have never been up. Says Joanna Robinson, co-author of the New York Times bestseller MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios, who is a writer and podcaster at The Ringer. The quality is suffering. In 2019, at the peak, if you put Marvel Studios in front of something, people were like, ooh, that brand means quality. That association is no longer the case because there have been so many projects that felt half-baked and undercooked. As public criticism mounts, Feige is pulling the plug on scripts and projects that aren't working. I saw the Blade thing on Twitter earlier. This is insane. Case in point, the Blade reboot with Mahershala Ali signed on for the eponymous role. What are these words? Eponymous? What is going on? Eponymous definition. Eponymous, giving their name to something. Of a person? What? Named after a particular person. The case in point, the Blade reboot with Mahershala Ali signed on for the eponymous role of a vampire. Is that because Blade is named after like a blade that he holds? Am I stupid? Well, yes, but am I stupid in this instance? Anyways, we're gonna continue reading. Things looked promising for a 2023 release date, but the project has gone through at least 5 writers. Gotta reset my camera. Listen, I don't have time. I'm sorry. This is how it has to be. 2 directors and 1 shut down 6 weeks before production. One person. Oh, I should probably check on what my camera looks like. Okay, are we good? We're good. But the project has gone through at least 5 writers, 2 directors, and 1 shutdown 6 weeks before production. One person familiar with the script permutations says the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. People are gonna be like, woke. I'm not necessarily gonna say that because who knows, mate. I don't necessarily have a problem with a Blade movie having women in it and having life lessons in it. That maybe that could be good. What is kind of a problem is that Blade was relegated to the 4th lead. A bizarre idea considering that the studio had 2-time Oscar winner Ali on board. What? What does that even mean? How are you gonna have Blade be the 4th lead in your Blade movie? You have Mahershala Ali. You managed to get Mahershala Ali as Blade, and you're gonna relegate him to your 4th lead? What? This is insane. Amid reports that Ali was ready to exit over script issues, Feige went back to the drawing board and hired Michael Green, the Oscar-nominated writer of Logan, to start anew. Speculation around town is that the studio is looking to make the film, now slated for 2025, on a budget of less than $100 million, a deviation from Marvel's big spending strategy. And I think this is I think that that's actually pretty promising, right? Get a good scriptwriter, Michael Green. He wrote Logan. I don't know what else he's rated, but Logan, pretty damn good. And Blade, probably a character that you shouldn't break the bank with, right? You probably shouldn't spend $250 million on a Blade movie. Because unfortunately, even though, yes, he has had the Wesley Snipes movies in the past, he's not necessarily going to be a big hit. And if you can make a great Blade movie for less than $100 million, yes, do that. So that the movie doesn't have to make $1 billion just to break even. So, and hey, maybe with a smaller budget, maybe you can do an R-rated Blade movie. I don't know, maybe. Anyways, with Iger publicly acknowledging the downside... Well, sorry, I'm dying. With Iger publicly acknowledging the downside of a Marvel TV glut that diluted focus and attention, the keepers of the comic book empire are considering some dramatic moves. Sources say that there have been talks to bring back the original gang for an Avengers movie. This would include reviving Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, both of whom were killed off in Endgame. That shouldn't be a stumbling block in comic books. Beloved characters are often killed off only to be resurrected thanks to the power of things like the multiverse. I mean, they're not wrong about that. But the studio hasn't yet committed to the idea. If it were able to bring those actors back, it wouldn't come cheap. Sources say Downey Jr.'s upfront salary for Iron Man 3 was around $25 million. That's insane. So here's the thing. If they brought back to Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and for an Avengers movie, it's undoubted. Sorry, what am I saying? That movie would undoubtedly be successful, right? That would be whatever, like an injection in the arm and whatnot. But it's not what the root of the issue is. You have to get to the root of the issue. It's about the quality of the product. Because, yes, do people have fond memories of Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans? Sure. But if you continue making crappy movies, it's not going to matter at the end of the day. It's not going to save your universe at the end of the day. Like, let's say you brought back Chris Evans to be in movies going forward. Would people get excited? Sure. But if Chris Evans is in crappy movies, that excitement is going to go down. You know? We love Charlie Cox as Daredevil. If Daredevil Born Again ends up being as bad as, the reports are saying that it was going to end up being before they, restarted production on it, our love for Charlie Cox only goes so far. We're not just going to like a show because Charlie Cox is in it. The show itself has to be good. So, I don't know, maybe you do bring the OG characters back for an Avengers movie. Maybe that could be fun. But it has to be a good movie on top of that. The movies surrounding it with your new characters have to be good on top of that. Because how did these characters and how did these actors come to be so popular that you can bring them back in to try to save your fledgling franchise? You had to make initial movies with them to make them the superstars that they are. Robert Downey Jr. was not an A-list actor when Iron Man came out. Chris Evans was not an A-list actor when Captain America came out. Scarlett Johansson, was she an A-list actor when Avengers came out? Probably. Yeah, she probably was. But, so on and so forth. I've seen people suggest that, when you move away from the characters that everybody loves after Endgame, then obviously things are gonna die off. That's just not true. If Shang-Chi had come out and been fucking amazing, Shang-Chi could be a massive star right now. If I don't know, the Eternals had come out and been amazing, that's a new Guardians of the Galaxy you got right there. If Miss Marvel had come out and been amazing, that's a new Spider-Man right there, potentially. So it all comes down to the quality of the material. That's what it comes down to. It has to be great. So, anyways, moving on. Will that solve Marvel's Majors problem? When the Quantumania actor was arrested in March, Disney executives insisted that they could afford to play a wait-and-see game, given that Avengers: The Kang Dynasty wasn't expected to begin shooting until early 2024. But then Majors was dropped in quick succession by his publicists and managers. He remains a client at WME, the agency where he landed after CAA parted ways with him pre-arrest for his brutal conduct towards staff, says one source. CAA declined to comment. In April, other alleged domestic violence victims of Majors began cooperating with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Then, ahead of a key hearing in October, media outlets, including Variety, obtained a court filing that referenced a police incident in London involving Majors that led his ex-girlfriend to seek medical attention. Making matters even stickier, the ex-girlfriend also worked on Quantumania as a movement coach, and the London incident took place while Majors was shooting Season 2 of Loki. On October 25th, a New York judge denied Majors' motion to dismiss his case, which ensures that the actor will stand trial in late November. His legal team is attempting to keep some material in the case sealed. A studio source notes that regardless of the actor's legal issues, Marvel had already considered moving away from a Majors-led phase because of the box office performance of Quantumania, which will struggle to make a profit. It gave people pause given that Quantumania didn't exactly land, the source says. On October 27th, Disney removed another Majors film, Magazine Dreams, from the release calendar. Recasting Majors is also an option. Yes, it is. Again, I promise I didn't pre-read. As Feige did when he replaced Terrence Howard in Iron Man 2 with Don Cheadle. In fact, Marvel isn't afraid to change direction, even after making splashy announcements. Armor Wars was first unveiled as a series and is now being developed as a feature, while the studio's push to adapt the comic book Inhumans into a feature film generated headlines but is now dormant. The now defunct Marvel Television mounted an Inhumans TV series in 2017 that ran for one season, and no more seasons after that. But yeah, I mean, again, when it comes to replacing, not going forward with Kang, it's the fact that they're doing it because of the underperformance of Quantumania. I mean, the thing about that movie, though, is that everybody agrees that Jonathan Majors was pretty good in that movie. Like, I wouldn't say that Kang was the issue with that movie. It's just that, like, I think everybody agrees that Kang was a pretty cool character. He just, the movie just wasn't good. Although, to be fair, he wasn't like Thanos level intimidating, I will say. So, yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, like, you could still turn Kang into a Thanos level supervillain, but again, we'll see. Still, there was one bright spot in 2023, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which became Marvel's biggest draw of the year with $845 million worldwide. The fact that it was directed by James Gunn, the guy now running rival DC Studios, was lost on no one. You can go back and look at my Guardians of the Galaxy 3 review. I believe I said, almost verbatim, was that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is incredible, and Marvel should be terrified that in the midst of this wave of slop coming out of the MCU right now, the guy who just made the one shining star is moving over to run your competitor. That is not insignificant. With Marvel, it used to be as close to a guarantee as you could get, says Paul Dargberbedian, a box office analyst at ComScore. So going all in on the budgets made sense. Guardians 3 was a bit overlooked in how successful it was, but that had James Gunn and Chris Pratt, and I think star power is becoming more important. Then there was Quantumania with $476 million. By the way, I don't know that star power is important, actually. You know what's actually, this article hasn't mentioned it, but you know what I actually think is a massively important thing that I see almost nobody ever talking about it? Trailers. Trailers. Comic book movie trailers have just not been great as of late. Like, when I look at like the trailers for like Thor: Love and Thunder or like the Marvels or whatever, I'm like, these trailers just kind of suck. And like, and they don't feel epic. They don't feel grandiose. Like when I watched the trailer for Guardians 3, it felt like this almost sad, you know, the saying goodbye to these characters. I felt emotional watching those trailers. When I look at the trailer for the Batman, it's like you can feel the mood coming out, oozing out of that trailer. You have these incredible set pieces that the movie teased, and it's like when you look at the trailer for Quantumania, it's like You look at the trailer for the Marvel, it's like I don't know. I think it's not even so much star power, but like marketing. Like obviously, first make movies that you can make trailers like that out of. But yeah, you got to make your trailers epic. You got to make your movie look like something worth spending like $40 to take more than $40 to take your family out to go see. So anyways, moving on from that. Then there was Quantumania with $476 million. Anything under $500 million is viewed as a disappointment. And these overreaching expectations are a result of so much success over the years. The key to reinvigorating Marvel may lie with the superhero arsenal that Disney acquired during its 2019 purchase of 21st Century Fox. That deal brought several blue-chip heroes, such as the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, back under the studio's control. Already, fans are geeking out about next year's Deadpool 3, which unites Ryan Reynolds' Merc with a Mouth with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and a reboot of Fantastic Four, slated for 2025. As a bonus, the Fox editions give Feige an opportunity to reimagine the X-Men franchise, the very property he cut his teeth on as a young executive at Lauren Schuler Donner's production company. Now that the WGA strike is in the rearview mirror, Marvel has started talking to writers about bringing the X-Men into the MCU fold. While Feige recalibrates, the rest of the industry is anxiously hoping that Marvel's best days are not behind it. Writing the Marvel obituary would be ill-advised, says Jason Squire, professor emeritus at USC School of Cinematic Arts and a host of the Movie Business podcast. Kevin Feige is the Babe Ruth of movie executives, and Marvel has the most profitable track record in movie history. No question. So, yeah, that is that article. I mean, honestly, I think to wrap things up here, I think it pretty much just confirms what I've been saying for a long time now. The MCU is doing too much. The spending is out of control, and the quality has severely gone down. And that's really it. Like, they're talking about get out of the Kang. Kang shouldn't be the face of the next phase. The X-Men will save them, or you gotta bring back the old Avengers. All of that is fine. Those are potential directions that you could go in. Sure. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is getting your quality back under control. And to be fair, I think they're on their way to doing that, right? We already know that Marvel is looking to make less content. Bob Iger has said it. They're going to start making less content. We already know. Oh, by the way, this article didn't mention, but it recently came out that Marvel wasn't using showrunners for their shows. Now they're going to use showrunners for their shows. Their shows we're no longer going to get any of these 6-episode limited series events. We're going to get proper shows with proper showrunners that are more like traditional TV, and I think that's good. I think that's going to hopefully lead to better quality shows. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's what's going to save Marvel. Better quality programming, and I think you do that using the quality over quantity approach. And yeah, and by the way, I think a lot of Disney's problems overall can be, it does kind of lead back to this need to feed Disney Plus. When you when you look at Pixar, the fact that they dumped so many of their movies on Disney Plus, I think, has hurt Pixar at the box office. The fact that they've dumped so many live action Disney adaptations, I think it's hurt Little Mermaid at the box office. I think Disney has trained its audience that their products are not worth going to the theater for. These are Disney Plus fodder. So, anyways, it's a lot happened there. Let me know what you think about any or all of those topics in the comments down below. And we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.